Uganda is a land of stunning beauty, with breathtaking forests, savannas, and wildlife. The cities are vibrant with rich traditions and diverse culture.
I think the world needs to see us beyond, us being victims or vulnerable to the climate crisis. It's true the African continent is on the front lines of climate change, but it's also true that, different people on the African continent are on the front lines of the fight for climate justice. Many times we are referred to as missing voices, but we are not missing. We've never been missing. We've been speaking.
Despite the lush landscapes, the country is home to pressing environmental challenges. Extreme flooding, droughts, heat, and food insecurity plague the country. Like many other African countries, Uganda contributes minimally to global greenhouse gas emissions, but shoulders the burden of their harmful effects. This disproportionate exposure to pollution and disease works to devastate agriculture and destabilize a population reliant on the land to endure. This problem is not isolated, but rather indicative of broader systemic challenges.
As a climate activist, I want to tell you that there is no climate justice without gender justice.
In Uganda, women often face entrenched societal norms that limit their access to education, economic opportunities, and political representation. Women play central roles in the nation, but are forced to succumb to silence. As land degradation and deforestation take their toll, it is often women who feel it first, as the land provides food, water, and livelihoods for countless families. Despite hardships, women have been rising as environmental leaders, fighting for change, fighting to survive. The future is in their hands, and the whole world is watching.
No one is too small to make a difference, and no action is too small to transform the world.
At the heart of this movement is Vanessa Nakate. Born and raised in Kampala, Uganda's capital, Nakate saw the scourge of climate change in her own community, but was scared to speak up. In Uganda and similar regions around East Africa, girls are often taught from a young age to fear speaking up. Vanessa's own boarding school education reinforced this, emphasizing reserve, modesty, and obedience to authority. Despite suppression, Nakate found a way to stay strong and assert her rights with enough encouragement and inspiration. Now her voice empowers millions.
And in that time, the Fridays for Future movement had also started by Greta Thunberg from Sweden. And I was really inspired by her to also start doing the climate strikes in my country. I realized that it was a way that I could create awareness about what was happening.
Vanessa's Rise Up movement is not just about protecting the planet, but also addressing the deep injustices that fuel inequality. The climate crisis needs the inclusion of African voices and women who lead with passion and justice to drive meaningful, lasting change.
I believe that all life on Earth is sacred, and I believe that there is an interconnection of all life on the planet.
Vanessa Nakate recognizes the deep connection between protecting the environment and securing a just future for her home. She highlights how the climate crisis affects women, particularly in rural Uganda, where access to resources like clean water and arable land is increasingly strained. Her voice has broken through, and her protests and social media posts have garnered attention from larger organizations that have invited Nakate to important environmental conferences where she can continue to magnify her voice.
Social media and global platforms have given Vanessa Nakate a way to push back against these silencing voices. After being cropped out of a photo of young climate activists at the World Economic Forum in 2020, a moment that starkly symbolized the exclusion of African voices, she didn't retreat. Instead, she spoke louder, calling out racism that often leaves African and female activists unseen in global conversations. This moment wasn't just about Nakate. It represented the invisibility that so many African women face when advocating for their rights and their environment. They challenged norms to fight for issues that affect real people. Even in the face of social resistance, the power of one voice can echo across the world. And in every echo, there is hope for a more just and sustainable world.
In challenging the exclusionary dynamics that dominate international spaces, Vanessa Nakate has spoken up for everyday realities of our world. At UN conferences and COP meetings, she has given a voice to farmers whose crops are failing, young girls forced out of schools, and communities dependent on our planet's health. Her speeches are calls to action, calling for a forward-thinking climate movement where women's leadership is not an afterthought, but a necessity. Nakate remains a leader who refuses to let us forget what's at stake.
You're going to find a group of people that speaks about climate change more from the scientific perspective, but then you will find others that speak about it from the place of, we need to be able to access food, we need to access clean water, we need to access clean air.
Her activism goes beyond speeches. Her work on the ground is a testament to her deep commitment to tangible change. Her Green Schools project brings solar energy to schools and symbolizes solutions to climate change can directly transform lives.
I work with TAD Foundation that really supports the work of grassroots activists, and this, it includes organizing capacity building sessions, mobilizing resources for people to attend climate conferences, but also work on a project of installing solar panels and clean cooking stoves in schools. And so far we've been able to reach 75 schools in Uganda with this project, impacting more than 20,000 children and giving them access to cleaner food and cleaner air and electricity. That is a tiny number compared to the global population, but it is something, and it always reminds me that no action is too small to make a difference.
She's working to empower the next generation to push past fabricated boundaries of society. Solutions lie not just in policy or global summits, but in communities hit hardest by the crisis. In every school she touches, Nakate lights the way for the future where people and the planet can thrive.
This fight is not just about the environment or Uganda, but is an interconnected struggle that touches all corners of the globe. Environmental issues are inseparable from human issues. Nakate's journey reminds us that change happens when the margins become the center, when the silence find their voice, and when those most affected by injustice are empowered to lead. We cannot heal the planet without healing the social wounds that scar humanity. And in the voices of women like Vanessa Nakate, the world finds hope.